Hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. There are 19 days until November 7th. So this week we're going to continue to cover the twists and turns of the upcoming election. We've got a debate recap because Dan Cameron and our boy Andy Bashir went toe-to-toe, mano-to-mano in the first televised debate just yesterday. Then we're really excited. We got an interview with Representative Colonel Pam Stevenson, the Democratic candidate for Attorney General. We're going to meet her over in the campaign corner to hear how the campaign is going. And then we're going to close out with a call to action. So should be a great episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. But before we get into it, are you ready to help turn Kentucky purple? While political ads are right now trying to convince you that Andy Bashir is in fact Joe Biden's running mate, or that he's against churches, despite being a deacon in one, or that he's soft on crime, despite being the former attorney general of the state. Folks, these ads have only one goal. They want to convince you to stay home instead of supporting the candidate that you are leaning towards. Not exactly a great strategy for our democracy. And that's why Progress Kentucky is excited to be a part of the Kentucky Future Project, which is to build a political coalition of new voters, progressive voters, non-white voters who can come together to make our Commonwealth better. If you've been watching, you know we're working with great groups like Planned Parenthood, Hood to the Holler, the Fairness Campaign, many others to turn out the new Kentucky majority to achieve better electoral outcomes for our Commonwealth. If you want to support our efforts with this coalition, please make a donation to our secure ActBlue website. $5, $50, $500. It all adds up and gives us the materials we'll need to make a positive difference on November 7th. So you should do it. Why not? Now is the time to check in our co-host. Let us know who you are, where you are, and what does your protest sign say today. And if you're watching right now live on the internet, go ahead and put it in the chat. We want to hear what your sign says and what are you protesting today. There's so much to protest. But thematic of what we'll talk about a little bit later in the show, mine says Progress Kentucky stands with the UAW. Finish the negotiations, Ford. Take care of your workers. That's me. Nema, are you there?
I am here from the lovely Kenwood area of Lexington, and my protest sign today says pretty much what yours says, except mine says one day longer. And that is something that my dad used to say when they were striking on the picket lines back in the 70s and 80s. One day longer, you guys. You've got it. We support you with the UAW. My family supports you. AFT supports you. And let's get this done, guys. Bring it home for the working people.
Awesome. Oh, and I failed to mention, I'm in Lexington too. And if you haven't, I'm in Charlesburg. So I always like to put that plug into Charlesburg because Charlesburg does a few things right. They do their holiday decorations really quite well. I think things are coming on for Halloween. It's a great place to come, knock on doors. I definitely feel it. But then that's pretty much what Charlesburg does well, is the holiday decorations. Otherwise, to see a vinyl siding. Sorry to jump in there right in front of you, Doug. I know you're queued up and ready to go. Doug, can you tell us what's up?
Certainly. I'm not in Lexington, but I am in Harrison County. I want to stand up. I hope you can see. I have my Cabana Boy t-shirt on. I wear this when I'm waiting on guests to visit us. My wife had 4 of her high school friends spending the last several days in Cynthiana at Ashford Acres. It's a beautiful B&B And today, all of them came to our house for the cabana boy to wait on them. And I enjoy doing that. I hardly ever get any tips. I don't know, maybe I'm not doing the job right or anyway. So my protest sign says, "Come on, Republicans, we are electing Kentuckians, not Biden or Washington."
You lift it up a little bit. I can't see the bottom. Higher. There we go. Not Biden or Washingtonians. Gotcha.
All right.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, folks. How's everyone's week going? We ready for this show? We ready for this episode? Yeah. I've been traveling for work. I am ready to be home in my study, seeing if the dog's going to come bark at me, or a daughter's going to come check in on me. But yeah, nice to be back with you guys after a pretty stressful couple of days of work. And I appreciate that, y'all are taking your time to do this thing, which, just to be clear, if you're watching on the interwebs, like, man, this is an amazing show. It is, and it is all volunteer. No one is getting paid nothing to do this. We are just doing it of our own volition, our own sense that maybe us, John, about politics can help encourage more folks to get engaged in our political system. That's it. At least for me, that's my motivation. I don't know, Doug. What about you?
Yeah, it's like you said, we're all volunteers, and we have a lot of fun. And along the way, we get the work done, I think.
Nice. How about you, Nema? Any
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just kind of, looked into, I guess, being able to hang out with you all ever so often. And I know I like to give Aaron heart attacks by sliding in at the very last second. But yeah, I mean, and listen, guys, who else is going to listen to me bitch about politics and the state stuff except my husband? And he is tired of hearing about it. So this is at least a way for me to be able to say all these things that he does not want to hear about anymore.
I love that. And you know what he should do? He should just keep us going, make a donation. Because you heard our little plug, right? So This is like cheaper than, marriage therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And better for you than beer. That's right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, should I not be doing both? Is that
Well, I mean, not judging here. Yeah.
All right, let's get into the show. There are some really important stories. This is a critical time for elections. It's a weird election, right? Because it's an off-year election. So if you get your news through national politics, you might have just heard that, this great state of Louisiana, which I used to live in, they just elected a right-wing nut job as their governor. They do a weird governor's race. So again, off-year like we do, but they do it early. They do a jungle primary. So everyone runs at once. And then it's theoretically the top two vote getters, unless the top vote getter gets 50% plus one and wins that kind of clear majority. So in Louisiana, where they've had two terms of a blue dog Democrat, pretty conservative, moderate guy, the nut job right winger just won outright, and the Democrat didn't even make the runoff. Which there's a lot of folks. I still pay attention to Kentucky politics, and there's a lot of folks who are just about done with it, with that Louisiana political system and the political party, Democratic Party down there, just didn't do any campaigning for their candidate, and then not shockingly, they didn't win. So it's a pretty tough situation. I think we are looking a lot better. I'm really excited about kind of what's going on here in Kentucky, and I think things look good in certain ways, but let's hear the story about how they looked on the debate stage this week. Doug, what have you got for us?
Sure. Tonight I want to talk about my takeaways from the gubernatorial debate that was held on Monday night in Northern Kentucky. WDRB TV wrote an article about the debate, and the picture in the article pretty much captures the measure of both men. Andy, concerned and caring, and Cameron, oh yeah, I'm good. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Bashir won the coin flip and chose to go first. Candidates have rehearsed this statement and know exactly what they're going to say. Bashir mentioned that you were going to hear Cameron refer to Joe Biden several times and stated the over-under was, I think, 16. Cameron has campaigned against Bashir, noting that he feels like Bashir is tied to Biden. Sure enough, in Cameron's opening statement, he mentioned Joe Biden 4 times and Washington a couple of times. He did not mention that Trump has given his full support to Cameron. I bet he does mention this on the campaign trail when the audience fits. I think it was stark the way Cameron smiles and rocks back and forth while answering questions, and then immediately turns to Bashir with a scowl on his face. Side note, while canvassing a couple of weeks ago, I talked to a registered Republican who emphatically stated that she was voting for Bashir, but would vote for Republican down ballot candidates because she didn't agree with Joe Biden. I didn't press the issue, but really, Washingtonians, Biden, we're not electing those people. Abortion is a campaign issue, and Andy has been pretty clear in that he believes this decision is best left to the individual, as opposed to Cameron's view that the government should have control over a woman's body. Cameron has waffled over the last few weeks, as it is related to whether or not a 9-year-old who is impregnated by a family member could have an abortion. Defunding public education is another hot topic on the campaign trail. Bashir believes that public education should be just that, public, and Bashir is against vouchers and allowing private schools to obtain public funding. This is in our Constitution. Public funds, tax dollars, can only go to common schools, public schools. Cameron would work with the current Republican-controlled legislature to ensure that funds could be diverted from public schools to private schools. Many church schools could benefit through this process, and there is no question that religion will be centered to this schooling. Cameron's actions as Attorney General are a real indicator of who he will be if he is elected governor. Frequent listeners may remember that we've had Amy Bensonhaber on our COT show. She used to work in the AG's office and is a nationally recognized expert on open records. Here's a quote from Amy related to Cameron. What would a Daniel Cameron gubernatorial administration look like through the lens of Kentucky's open government laws? In a word, opaque. The definition of opaque is not transparent. She continued, the proof is visible everywhere. Since taking office as Attorney General in December 2019, Cameron has left a clear track record of disdain for the public's interest in free and open examination of public records and the formation of public policy at public meetings. Here is a comment from McKenna Horsley, who is a member of the Kentucky Lantern Group. They bring you up-to-date, great information on all things Kentucky. In last night's debate, Daniel Cameron characterized the race for Kentucky governor as crazy versus normal, while Governor Andy Bashir said the choice is vision versus division. You know, Andy is Andy, and here's a personal testament to this fact. I'm on the board of the Kentucky Government Retirees Organization, and the chair and I met with then AG Andy Bashir to talk about retirement legalities. In person, Andy is Andy. This week, the board chair met with a current administration official to talk about the possibility of state government retirees receiving a COLA. The last COLA that was received happened over 10 years ago. The cost of living has gone up substantially since that time. The chair of KGR has reached out to Cameron and his campaign about talking with him, and to date, there has been no response. Andy listens and makes things better. Cameron seeks division. To quote from Nato's Fab song, it's Andy, it's Andy, it's Andy for me. Just want to mention that 3 more chances to see the two in debates. 8 p.m. EST, October 21st, League of Women Voters candidate debate hosted by the League of Women Voters and WLKY. And 8 p.m. EST, October 23rd, the Kentucky Tonight gubernatorial debate hosted by KET. And at 7 p.m. EST, October 24th, the Kentucky debate hosted by WKYT. I encourage people to listen and learn. Back to you, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. Yeah, so I was as I said, I was traveling for work, so I was not able to watch the debate. Sounds like the over under on the number of Biden mentions actually went against Andy. So I think that Cameron got some feedback that maybe he should pare down the number of times he links Biden to Bashir, and so I think he kind of ratchet it back a little bit, is my understanding. But yeah, the attack ads are you think Biden's on the ballot, right? There's just so many attack ads that are like linking the two, and that's because he's pretty unpopular, Joe Biden. But I don't think it's gonna work. I think people understand that Frankfurt's a lot different than Washington D.C. But I don't know. Nema, what do you think?
Well, I watched about 30 minutes of the debate, and when they started going on and on and on and on about abortion, I had to turn it off because I'll just be honest with you. Watching two men stand on a stage and talk about a woman's health care, women's health care, absolutely enraged me. And I was like, I just can't watch this. I mean, this is ridiculous. And, the thing with Cameron, and this is what bothers me too about this whole campaign, to me, it has been terrible. It has been completely, like I call it, the spaghetti test. You don't know if it's done, so you just throw it against the wall and hope that it sticks. And, it's been all over the place. And the whole Biden thing is really, I think, a low IQ way to try to get votes in this state. Unfortunately, it will work on some people, but ultimately, most people in Kentucky are like, this has what? Like, they don't get, again, it will work with some people, but I don't understand. I'm so tired, you all, of this election season. It started in December, if you guys remember, thanks to Miss Kelly Craft running her ads. It's been going that long, and I think everybody's exhausted and ready to get to the polls. I know I am. Yeah. And, it's just been nasty. But, anytime you're running up against a popular candidate, especially a popular governor like Andy is, what else are you going to, now they're saying he's crazy. And, Andy Bashir's a lot of things, but he ain't crazy. And I just could not. This is just ridiculous. This whole line, the whole campaign has been a disaster, if you ask me. Now, yeah. I'm not a, campaign person, but as a regular Kentuckian, I can't follow it. I don't even know what his vision is.
Does he have a vision? You think he has a vision? I think it's just like this anti thing. That all he's pushing is just nope, no woke. No, no transgender kids, none of that, because we're saving women's sports, and Andy wants to turn your kids transgender, and he lied about it. Andy lied about it. It's like right. These ads are they're infuriating. They are like talking down to every single person watching them. And yeah, like I said in my opening, like they aren't trying to inspire you to get out and vote for your candidate. They're just trying to put enough questions about the person you thought you were going to vote for that maybe you just stay home, which, Doug, I know that's your favorite thing is, how many voters just stay home, right? Like, oh, great. That's what we need is to turn off more potential voters because our turnout is so pathetic to begin with, right? I don't know. It's gross.
Well, you would think that and this is just me watching the disaster that has been the Congress right now in the House. You would think that our Republicans here in Kentucky would kind of be like, crap, we don't want that to happen to us. And let's be honest here. It could happen. There's enough lunatics right now in the Frankfurt House that could absolutely, if they teamed up with the Democrats, they could absolutely wreak havoc on this entire state. And while they're open, and I don't get it. because all the other Republicans are like opening the door for them, making them coffee and saying, come on in. But if they really look at what's going on, why are they continuing this narrative of hate, division, and why are they even catering to this group of people that really aren't Republicans? Let's just be honest. And are basically destroying everything that they can touch in Congress right now. I don't get it. If I could have dinner with a Republican that has like any kind of power over their stuff, I'd be like, "Are y'all out of your minds? Like, what are you hoping to gain? Because you're losing your party." So I don't know.
Doug, what do you think?
I'll be glad when November 6th is upon us and we have the election. And I'm really excited. I'm not a person who predicts and that kind of thing, but I feel good about the election right now. And I think that the second most important election is the AG election, because if Bashir doesn't win, then we need a stopgap there, and we won't have a stopgap. And we have 3 branches of government for a very good reason. And so we need those 3 branches.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't agree more. And I'm really excited to share the interview we had with Colonel Pam in just a minute. But, I think you're right, Doug. That's a really important backstop. It was, Andy proved it when, crazy Matt Bevin, like literally, like that guy's crazy. Like anyone who says Andy's crazy, like I don't buy that. I don't think anyone buys it. He's like maybe too calm, but I don't think crazy is like makes sense at all to anyone. But yeah, no, Matt Bevin was clearly crazy, and the fact that we have that backstop of Andy in the AG's office was, I think, really important to stop some of the most horrendous things going forward. Not quite the same situation with Dan Cameron in the AG's office, right? Because basically Andy couldn't pass a lot of things because he had that super duper majority lined up against him, right? That could, just easily pass a bill, as veto a bill, as or override a veto of a bill, right? So Andy didn't have Andy had to use like jujitsu to get his stuff through, right? But he did it. He was able to check quite a few boxes of very cool stuff that wouldn't have been done but for his leadership. But it was weird leadership because he couldn't like pass a bill. But yeah, so anyway, that all goes to say, like, I hope we have Colonel Pam in the AG's office no matter what happens. That said, I think if Andy doesn't win, I don't think there's a chance in hell that Colonel Pam wins. I think we have to have a kind of overwhelming amount of support for Andy to get some of these down ballot, because just there's a lot of folks who know Andy, they love Andy, but they hate Democrats. So, and if they don't know Colonel Pam, if they knew Colonel Pam, I think they would love Colonel Pam. But there's no way Colonel Pam has like the resources to meet every Kentucky voter. She's got one TV ad that we're going to show you later, which I really like. I think it's really impactful. So everyone should find it online and share it with anyone who's not aware of the down ballot races. But it's going to be challenging for sure, because I've talked to a lot of these voters, right? We've been out there knocking on doors, and you'll find a lot of folks who, Kentucky's weird. And if you ever like look at what's happening on Twitter, discussions about Kentucky politics, there's a lot of weird conspiracy theories that show up because like Democratic registration versus votes, right? There's a lot of people who are historically Democrats who are so conservative and have drank every single drop of Fox News Kool-Aid, right? And so thankfully, Fox News does not cover Kentucky politics at the national level. They just focus on national politics. So these same people that think Biden is the devil have interacted with Andy through local news and know that he's fantastic, right? And they also remember the last time they voted for a Republican for governor, and they're like, oh, that kind of sucked. So
every time,
right?
Every time. I mean, they're all lame ducks, right? Like I can't think of any of them that haven't been.
No, none of them won a second term, right?
No.
So all I'm getting at is like there is absolutely a challenge to like the electorate in Kentucky, and go knock on some doors, go make some phone calls. You'll run into it. You'll be confronted with it. These people that really do like Andy Beshear, but think that Joe Biden is the devil. And even though one of the things that Andy's been doing is spending a bunch of money that Joe Biden sent to the states to do things like the Brent Spence Bridge, to do the broadband, to do the clean water infrastructure, to do like EV charging station building, which, if you want to like make sure that those Kentucky, the Ford battery plants have vehicles to put those batteries into, you need to have some of that charging infrastructure too, which that's coming from the Biden administration. But anyway, I'm a little long-winded tonight. I'm sorry. Appreciate you guys putting up with me, but I just think this race is really interesting, and I don't buy 16 points. I don't think it's going to be that, but I do feel like we've got some wind in our backs, and
I'm thinking 2 to 4%.
Yeah,
I'm going 2 to 4. That's my if I got my DraftKings app out, because now you can gamble on your sports betting thing, right? And I would go 2 to 4%. For the win on Andy. That's my guess. I've been hanging on to that. And let's be honest, if he wins by 5,001 votes, he's already at least won one Kentuckian over from the last race. So, I mean, I'm feeling 2 to 4. 2 to 4.
No, because last time it was 0.4. So I think that would be amazing. A 2% win would be like a blowout compared to the last time for sure. Yeah, I'm not going to bet because I don't believe in betting, because I believe in holding on to my money, and I am horrible at that thing. I'm glad that
$120.
What?
Thank you, Andy Beshear.
You were obligated to make half of that into a campaign contribution because he delivered it. All right, let's move on to the second story, not directly related to this election. But definitely, if you pay attention to politics, then you should, have a clear sense of kind of why things are the way they are. But tell us a little bit, Nema, about what is happening on the picket lines.
So I'm obviously the union supporter here, like that always is cheering for our Progress Kentucky stuff for unions. But the UAW strike, as most people know, started. We're right now on the 5th week of this strike. And what has made it interesting and different for people in the labor movement and people who are organizers and union members is it is completely different from any strike that we've seen. They're calling it a stand-up strike. And it's almost like a rolling strike is how I would kind of explain it to folks. Shawn Fain is the president of the United Auto Workers. And here's a really fun fact about Shawn Fain. He came from rank and file. He was not he wasn't seen as a successor to, anyone else as in the presidency. He did not go through those channels. He, I think, ran a local, was a president of a local of maybe 40 people. But he came in, he ran on a ticket of change. And he also ran on a ticket of, it's time to stop playing patty cake and being okay with, taking scraps because you're buddies with the owners or the boss. And this has been something that we've been seeing, if you've been paying attention to the labor movement, kind of across the country with these new presidents that are coming from the rank and file. We saw it with the Amazon, them unionizing with Chris Smalls. And you're seeing it with Shawn Fain, and it makes him a little bit more of a different president. And I'll tell you, 75% last I saw of the country is standing behind the United Auto Workers. And I've spoke to a member tonight, and they are completely behind what he is doing. And here's what's important for everybody to remember. When labor wins, we all win. Labor fought for our weekends. Labor fought for Labor Day to be a holiday. They're the reason you have a 40-hour work week. even if you're not in a union, you are going to benefit from these folks taking a stand and saying, we are worth more. We have value. And that is the thing that's been missing. And I hope that all the union presidents nationally and in the state really take a hard look at themselves and say, am I too cozy with management? Have I hurt my members by being too cozy? And I would say if they have, then it's time for those presidents to go. And I'm just being honest here. I'm calling balls and strikes, y'all. But what I have seen Sean Fain do has taken a set of steel balls that are the size of cantaloupes, and he has come out and has been clear on whose side he's on. He's on rank and file side, and I'm going to tell you, I'm cheering him all the way. But I did look up some quick things for you guys, just so you know, if you're not following it correct too much, like, well, obviously I have. But so there's about 34,000 United Auto Workers out on strike right now. There's 150,000 auto workers nationwide, and there's 44 facilities on strike across the country. 8,700 of those folks that are out are at our Kentucky truck plant, which is one of the most lucrative plants that Ford has. I think I heard maybe 45% of their value is actually with the Kentucky truck plant, which that's pretty incredible. And the interesting thing too about this is that the Escape plant has not been closed yet. And so I would anticipate that coming soon. I can't imagine that the president would have just one side out and not the other one, but they're doing it in a way where you can't get scabs in quick enough. And that is amazing. They don't know where they're going to be hit or when. The big three don't. And so they can get them shut down, and they're scrambling. And, really, and guys, listen, don't cross a picket line. Don't cross a picket line ever. And don't be a scab. But I'm obviously 115% behind the United Auto Workers and what they're doing. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm 114 at least. I don't know. I think it's amazing to see this, and I think you're totally right. Your analysis of this new president, kind of what he's doing. It's like they've never done this before. Like going against all three at the same time, but then not going against all of them, going to like very strategically, like, oh, what's the most profitable plant? Let's go with that one next. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. And it's like, got to have them kind of on their heels in terms of the kind of those corporate folks who are used to kind of certain strategy. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're big mad. Apparently Bill Ford himself was like, I always got along really well with all the other UAW presidents. And I'm like, that's the point. Like, that is why their pay is pathetic. I'll be honest with you guys. I was shocked at how little they earn at that truck plant. I was shocked. Because we're near Toyota, right, guys? We're near Toyota. I've seen people drive from Letcher County every day to Toyota to work. This is the kind of, the opportunity and the money that Toyota was bringing in. I had no idea that our Ford, our American made, our folks were not getting what they should have been getting. And somebody dropped the ball. I'm going to be honest here. There are people who have blood on their hands over this. It's gotten to the point where it's just not sustainable.
No. And I think, that the narrative, right, that, okay, so the big three almost went bankrupt. And in fact, it wasn't for like federal loans kind of stepping in to help them out, zero interest loans, I think, they would have maybe disappeared completely. And so the workers kind of met that moment and like gave up some things. Now they're making billions of dollars a year in profit. And so it's like, well, time to bring that back and time to kind of give up, that or get back what they gave up. And yeah, of course, if these huge companies are making billions of dollars in profits, and the CEOs have seen 50% raises or 40% raises, well, the workers sure as hell should be getting 40% raises too. because those workers are doing a lot more than those CEOs are.
Well, and they can't afford to buy their own product. I mean, that's the other thing that's maddening. I mean, hell, you can't afford to buy a Ford F-150 right now. They're about $60,000. I know this because I love trucks. But I'm telling you that you cannot, I mean, who can afford that? I mean, I'm like, what? It's a truck, right? And so, that's the thing, y'all. It's gotten out of control. And I will say this: there's a couple of Republicans that I talked to, and we chatted it up about all kinds of stuff sometimes. And they said to me, "I hope the UAW wins. Piss on Ford. Piss on." They did. I about fell out of my chair. So they do not have even Republican support. Ford, Chevy, all of them. They're up against the wall on this, and I mean, we just one day longer. I mean, just keep going, guys, and girls. We're all rooting for you.
Absolutely. And in fact, we got to mention, so we had a little bit of last minute kind of flipping and flopping of our co-host, because Kimberly is actually out on the picket line right now. So she's helping out, and I think a lot of people are showing up on the picket lines, folks who are not workers but are standing with workers very clearly. So I think that's fantastic. I'd love to see that kind of continue for sure.
Absolutely.
And there's a couple of things I wanted to mention. Nema, you mentioned the 8,700 workers. And I saw some other figures that Ford plant produces $25 billion in profit. And you mentioned it's a huge moneymaker for Ford. So it's good that they're out. I saw some figures. The top tier workers, just their regular pay is about $33 an hour, which translates to about $70,000 a year. The Ford CEO makes $21 million per year. So in 7 days, he makes enough to make $70,000.
I mean, it's criminal, y'all. And listen, it's capitalism. I get it. Everybody wants to make more money than whoever. But come on, how much more money do you need? And why not share this out with your workers? You would not have this great, awesome truck that everybody wants to buy if the workers didn't build it. Right. And, you don't have the same quality when scab workers come in. I'll tell y'all this. I'd be real careful about buying a truck right now in the next probably 6 months or so, because you're going to have scab parts on there, and I wouldn't trust the scab part for nothing.
No, for sure. And it's amazing that Ford's griping about the leadership, and has really degraded the jobs at the Kentucky truck plant, right? Of course it was that family that said, "Oh yeah, if workers can't afford the Model T, well, who am I going to sell these things to?" Right? So they had to figure it out. They had to both make them cheaper and pay the workers more. It's capitalism, right? So they got to have a market for this stuff. But yeah, it's outrageous that I didn't know trucks cost that much. That's astounding to me. Yeah. And that's the 250s are probably even more, and the Super Duties, yeah. And I wish they didn't sell so many of those things. I'll be honest. Why do you need such a big vehicle? Where are you going with that thing?
Listen, I need my truck. Okay, Aaron? Tanya Trucker is the love of my life. I love my husband. I love my kid. I love my truck. I'm just saying, every Kentucky woman needs a truck. Trust me.
There's a song there somewhere.
Yeah. All right. Well, we should probably move on, because this is where we don't want to come to blows over this. And I appreciate my time with Nema, but yeah, we should just move past the things we don't necessarily agree on.
This is why I drive liberals crazy, Aaron, because I can't give up my damn truck. They're going to take my card, brother. They're going to take my card.
I tell you what, now that I'm thinking more about EVs, and I want to support our Kentucky workers who are making batteries, and I love the fact that there will be more Kentucky workers making batteries than there will be mining coal because of what's just the size of that economy, the size of this that industry, and just and there are 0 unionized coal miners in Kentucky, which just is astounding to me.
And real fast, keep in mind, this is what UAW is also striking for, to make sure that those battery workers are in the same tier and are unionized.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
Just keep that in
100% with that. 100% with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this, as I think about buying an EV and like the kind of benefits of it, right? Because I don't like going to the gas station. That's not like I would much rather just plug the thing in my driveway or my garage and have it ready to go in the morning. But then also it's quiet, and every once in a while, like I'll be driving 35 miles an hour down the road, and somebody has to drive past me, and they're like, "Oh, you're just going the speed limit. Why you just get out of my way?" And it's like the loudest thing in the world, and it's going 38 miles an hour. Like, why does your vehicle have to be that loud to go 38 miles an hour? That is astounding. I cannot wait to have a quiet EV that'll go 80 miles an hour and make no noise. But anyway.
We'll just agree to disagree on this one here.
Apparently, yes, we will. That's fine. I still love you, Nema.
I love you too. I know. It'll be fine. We'll work through it.
So now we're gonna move to our interview, but first we're gonna tee up, I think, the ad that Colonel Pam Stevenson is running. If you, like me, think this is a great ad, you should remember that, and then we will talk about what you can do to help her out on that campaign in a minute. But Annabelle, are you ready to go? Can you show us that ad?
Born and raised in Kentucky, a minister in her grandfather's church, Colonel Pam Stevenson took those values around the world, defending America's freedoms in war zones. A 27-year military veteran, she prosecuted violent criminals as an Air Force JAG attorney. And as our Attorney General, she'll use her 40 years of legal experience to go after anyone who puts your safety or freedom at risk. Colonel Pam Stevenson, Faith, Country, Kentucky.
Excellent. All right.
I love the Faith, Country, Kentucky.
That is good. I like a little, the repeating that K sound. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and show the interview that Doug and I did earlier today. You can tell it's the same day because we're in the same clothes, and I think you're going to appreciate it. Again, to the show, Representative Colonel Pam Stevenson, of course, who has been a longtime friend of the show. Got on, I think, before you even were elected to the state house. You had a great term there. Now are, of course, working very hard to be elected the next Attorney General of the great state of Kentucky. Thanks so much for coming back on. How is the campaign treating you?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me. I love being on this show because you guys do work so people can have information to run their lives by. And I'm always grateful for that. Plus, you're a lot of fun. I mean, that's pretty funny.
That is funny. True.
But the campaign is going fabulous. We are so excited because we got a poll just recently showing that we are in single digits, like we're that close. Nice. And they never thought we could get there.
No, this is a tough campaign, right? This is absolutely a tough campaign. This is a red state. We all know that. We all know how much, Trump won by. You have not been shy about kind of your concern, your compassion, your passion for causes that matter. So I don't think anyone would say that, oh, of course she's got this race. This is like going to be a hard fought race. And I'm very excited to hear you're in like the single digits. That's fantastic. What's the kind of response people are giving you?
We have traveled around this state to places I didn't even know existed. Last week, we were on the shore of the Mississippi looking at Missouri. And I'm like, oh my word. And when I talk to people, they just want their life to matter. They want their kids to do better than they did, and they want their families to thrive. And when we talk about those issues, it resonates with them. And they're glad that the government is listening to what they need. They often ask me, many of them ask me, why do y'all talk about the stuff y'all talk about in Frankfurt? It doesn't help my family. And so when they find out that I'm listening, they've got a lot to say. I don't know how many times someone has said to me, I'm a Republican and I know you're a Democrat, but I could work with you, or I'm going to vote for you, or thank you for caring about our kids. So there's some basic things about being a Kentuckian that people gravitate towards. And when we live those values, and I'm talking about the value of be good to your neighbor, the least of these, love one another. When we live those values, people respond. And so they're responding really nicely and really authentically because they got a lot to say.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. And as I described, I mean, we've had a long history of interacting with you and engaging with you, and it's always a pleasure. It's always fun. It's always informative, and it's always inspiring. So I can't imagine what people, why wouldn't people want to vote for you once they meet you, once they interact with you on the campaign trail. So I'm so glad you're getting out there. I'm so glad that your message and your kind of ability to listen to folks is resonating with them. And I concur. Good gosh, they spend a lot of time talking about stuff that doesn't matter in Frankfurt. And I think, whatever you can do to fix that.
It's we went to a rehab center in Moorhead, I believe, and we were touring the center to see exactly how do we handle this drug epidemic. What do we do for the people, and what do we do to short-term, long-term? So I was gathering information. And the residents of this center asked the director, could they speak with me when I finished? And they did. And they said these words, the words I remember, take this back to Frankfurt, please. I'm like, okay. We want to do good. We just want a second chance. And this program works. And we don't want people to give up on us. Like, I got a little bit of life left to live. And I want to live it doing things I say are good things. I said, I can take all of that back because I agree. And then they wanted to show me around their personal space. All people want is to be heard. People can take a no if they know you've heard them and that you've got a bigger plan, a better plan, a we plan where they're not excluded. So and the other area where this shows up at is I go to a lot of high schools. And I always ask the high schoolers this question: what do you want adults to know, and what kind of world do you want to live in? And initially, I don't want to call them children, but the students, the first time the young lady said to me, she raised her hand after it was sort of quiet, and she raised her hand and she says, why won't the adults protect us?
Wow.
So I start crying. That's my natural reaction. Like, wow. I don't know. I don't have a good answer. Nothing I say will make up for the fact that we have said our children are at play. Yeah. That we won't stand for them.
And she was talking about, you think she was talking about the kind of epidemic of gun violence and
because the third class, same thing, asked the question. And a young man said, I don't know why the adults won't take care of us. And about that time, somebody made a noise in the hallway and they all jumped.
Oh, scary. Wow.
And I looked, the teacher said, it's all right. There's nothing going on. And then some of the students are more verbal with their fear. This young man came into the classroom. He had a hoodie on. He sat down in his chair. You couldn't see his face. He wasn't participating. He certainly wasn't learning. So I walked over to him and I said, may I ask you a question? And he said, no. I said, it's just a short question. And he took his hoodie off and he looked at me and he said, what? I just said, what's going on? And he says, he looked at me in the eyes and I looked at him back. I'm like, you're not going to scare me away. He just said, I'm scared.
Wow.
And then he put his hoodie back on. So we're creating a generation of children that are living in fear. We're creating a generation of children that don't understand the actions the adults are not taking. And my charge to them is get involved now. Don't wait until you're grown. There's something you can do now to build that world. The world that each class built was beautiful. You know, they wanted love and joy. They wanted everybody to be accepted. They wanted to be able to have agency over their own life. I mean, I just listened to them, and as they spoke, it showed up in the room, and it was a quietness. I said, that's the space where you get to play in. So we've got to do a better job. We're not doing good by our children. And we've got to do a better job as the AG, as the Attorney General for this state. If you keep your eye on families thriving, if you keep your eye on Kentucky rising, then you make better choices. If you keep your eye on power, if you keep your eye on the next job, you make poor choices. And people suffer. You cannot sue the governor 27 times, make a commercial about it, and then think that that's going to feed families. It will not. So if you use those resources to sue the governor, those are resources that are not going towards Kentucky families. There are limited resources. It's not inexhaustible. So I want to return this office back to the people, for the people, by the people, to serve the people. We must be the difference we want to make. Maya Angelou said that all the time. We've got to make sure that our children get what they need to grow up and stay in Kentucky. We must grow the economy. We must do all manner of things. You can't do it if you're fighting and playing politics. So we're taking the politics out.
That's fantastic. And I know that Doug has a question, but it just kind of raised in my your comments are just raised in my mind. You know, you got kids who are scared, who are wondering why adults aren't doing anything to make them safer in the classroom. And then you've got your opponent, who of course opens his TV ad with him at a gun range or whatever, just kind of firing away, trying to like make it sound like he's running to be the next John Wayne. Which I don't think your job description includes you going to the firing range, right? You're like, you go to the court,
which they don't do. So I have 40 years of legal experience. I've litigated many cases. I have done this job in the Air Force, very similar to this. And one of them had 8 years of legal experience on the day of the election, and the other one has 19. So don't tell me what it is to lead a complex organization. Don't tell me what it's like to get results in bad circumstances, like tents, deserts, where you don't speak the language, where the culture is different. I've done it. Now we need to do it for Kentucky.
Fantastic. All right, Doug, what do you want to ask the representative, Colonel Pam?
First of all, I want to say, if something had been going on in that school, you would have gone out there. And if I had been there, I would have followed you, because I would know that you're going to be doing good, and I would want to be there trying to help you.
Thank you, Doug.
Although I would say that the first time we met, I think it was in Midway, I wanted to steal your lunch. And I think you probably would have let me, but I didn't force the issue.
I don't mind sharing. I will share. Now you owe me a lunch. You might now you owe the Duchess a lunch.
I owe the Duchess a lunch, and I will pay that. I did want to get your opinion on something. Recently, I read an article in the Herald Leader where you and your opponent talked about issues. Your opponent used the B word and the W word, Biden and Washington. Can you explain what either of these have to do with the AG's office in Kentucky?
Nothing. Did I say nothing? Nothing. Just like they don't want to talk about my experience. They don't want to talk about what Andy's done for this state. They don't want to talk about all the lives that were saved because of COVID. They don't want to talk about all the people that have been restored because of the floods and the bad weather that we had. All the programs that we put in place so they can get whole again. They would rather talk about things that don't impact Kentuckians, like the last time I checked, we were not on the border of New Mexico. So why we are talking about things that don't impact the everyday lives of people means we're running from something. We have politicized it. You can have democracy depends on people being engaged. We must be engaged, but we don't have to lie about it. We can just talk about what this government can do to support people. We're supposed to be a help agency and not a take over your life agency.
True.
So that would be my answer. It has nothing to do with it, unless the president's going to come and visit and give us money for a bridge. Oh, he did that.
So what's a typical day like? I know it's crunch time. I'm so pleased to hear that the polling is showing that you're really close. And but what's a typical day like?
Well, I've been married 41 years. I have 2 children, and I usually get up very, very early, like 6 o'clock. And I always say, if he wants another 41 years, let's have coffee. Translation: I need coffee. So he is very supportive, and I get up and I do, for me, I'm an ordained minister, so I do my devotionals in the morning. And I look at the whole day, the people I'm going to meet and what's possible, because we meet each other. It's not a thing. It's like, what do I want to leave them with? What do I want them to walk away thinking? And once I go through my whole day, and we have all stops, and usually it ends around 10. And at each stop, we are engaged with the voters, and I do a lot of listening. And also I ask questions when I don't understand, because that's what has to happen. For example, this drug pandemic affects every county differently. So one size does not fit all. The Jasmine County is different than Jefferson County, than Fayette County. So I need to go to the people that live there. I need to go to the leaders in that county and listen to what they think they need. Now, everybody's not going to get everything, but you know what the most important thing is, and we could come together and come up with a strategic plan where the whole state, the Commonwealth, can be moving in the same direction in regards to treatment for people that are addicted, in regards to putting people in prison for dumping drugs in our state. So I would do a lot of listening, and I'm good at strategic planning, because we have to do it in the military. You don't go to war without a plan. And yes, the plan is going to change depending on what circumstances are thrown at you. But you learn to dance with what's so, and not what you think is so, and not what you want is so, but what's right in front of me, and how can we use it to move Kentucky families forward. And that's my big thing. I think the second point would be, we've got to take better care of our most vulnerable people, like the elderly. The rest of their life should be the best of their life. Instead, fraud against the elderly is $1 billion business. Why don't we let anybody open up a nursing home? Why are so many lawyers practicing nursing home abuse law? Why is that a thing? And secondly, people that are disabled are differently abled. For example, if this world were designed by a person in a wheelchair, the walk across the street button would be at hip level and not shoulder level. Simple things.
Right.
And then children in foster care. We got signs all on the corners. We need homes to put children in. We've already lost a bunch of children in the last several years and still haven't found some of them. Mm. So we've got to take better care of our children and act like they are our future instead of mouthing those words. So I believe that we have to treat everybody as a child of God, even when they don't deserve it. That's not my call. And we're going to do those things in the AG's office, get it to functioning properly. Get rid of the lawsuits that are there now in terms of some of the dysfunction that's happening in the office, and then make it strong so we can be a resource across Kentucky. The AG sits on a lot of different boards, a lot of different agencies, and that means I have the unique opportunity to bind those agencies together in some type of plan that lets Kentucky rise, like the graphics.
That's awesome. I'm thinking about the lawsuits, right? So obviously he has just joined into every like right-wing assault on the federal government possible. That's kind of one of the first to sign on. But it's interesting what battles he's chosen to fight politically. Obviously the will of the voters on an issue like abortion is pretty clear, right? Just last year we had a big vote, statewide vote on Amendment 2, I think, where we said very clearly there should be a state, constitutional right to privacy, to abortion. Like that's what the voters wanted. They rejected efforts to make it very clear there was no right to an abortion in our state constitution. And yet the next day, Dan Cameron came out to say, "Oh yeah, I see what the voters said, but you're all wrong, and we're going to go ahead and and fight that effort for sure." What would your kind of office? What would be your stance on that? And whether Amendment 2 is something that's legitimate and needs to be recognized, or kind of how would you approach that issue?
Well, first of all, when it is put up for a vote and the people speak, I'm not going to go to court and say I disagree with what they said, so do what I want you to do. Number 2. Is the action I'm about to take for the greater good of Kentucky? For example, would I sign on to a letter telling law firms that they can't have a DEI department, that they diversity, equity, and inclusion? They can't do that. How does that feed children in Kentucky? How does that help the elderly? What does it do for the everyday Kentuckian? What does it do for farmers? How do we move forward? And there are a lot of things that I disagree with, but what's at stake is not my opinion. It's what the people want. And what are they going to do to have it? That's what the government is, for the people, by the people, to serve the people. So like I told you before, I've been married 41 years, and I would like to think that my husband agrees with me all the time. Everything I say and do, he just looks at me and he says, "You're right, dear." So I don't understand why. I know he can't defend himself. He's not here. I don't know why we get in a public space and think that we have to agree on everything before we can take action. We've got to move Kentucky forward in the areas that we agree on and work on the areas we don't. In some areas we may never agree on, but the question comes down to what action should we take that's for the greater good of Kentucky, not my personal opinion.
That's great. That's important. So we're kind of in the final stage of this campaign. I think there's 19 days to go. What can people do to help you out and engage with you and support you in your efforts?
Well, if you're out there and you're listening and you believe in a democracy, engage. A democracy only works if you engage. If you don't, it doesn't work, and you get what we got. When we vote, we win. Why do you think they're spending so much time trying to stop the vote? If you really want your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your great-greats to have an America they could be proud of, then you must take action today. As for my campaign, you can go to pam4forag.com. We're trying to work we're very close. And when we get a commercial up, we'll knock that out. So we're raising money for a commercial that will play around the state. And we're raising money to make sure that people hear the message. And the message of hope is what they want. When they hear that I've served 27 years in the Air Force, that I'm a colonel, an ordained minister, and just recently a duchess, I win. And when I tell them what's possible for their life if we work together, everybody wins. For those of you who don't know this, I'm a quilter. I won second place in the Kentucky State Fair this year. And when I quilt, I take beautiful pieces of fabric and take the thread and bind the fabric together until it's a beautiful quilt. The AG is the thread that binds the Commonwealth in every county together, binds the law enforcement officials together, binds every county judge and county attorney together. So can the Commonwealth is a beautiful place for families to thrive. That's who we are. That's who we get to be. Engage, donate so I can get my commercial up. Yes, yes, yes. And then help somebody. Even if you don't want to help me, find a campaign and help someone. You've got to be engaged. That's the price we pay for freedom.
Fantastic. So texting, their phone banking, there's opportunities to engage. We'll make sure to share kind of ways folks can sign up to help your campaign. Obviously, every dollar can help spread that fantastic ad and make sure it gets run kind of all across the Commonwealth. That's so great. Colonel Pam, thank you so much for joining us, and really, good luck with these kind of final few weeks.
Well, and thank you for what you guys are doing to make sure that we have a democracy. I know the work you're doing. I see you.
Well, you inspire us, Colonel Pam. So we will continue to do that work in our final 19 days as well. And then, we aren't done on November 7th, right? We got to keep watching what's happening in Frankfurt. We got to stay engaged. But yeah, it'd be a lot nicer to do if you were up there to represent the Attorney General. And so great to have you on this campaign, putting your positive vision out there. And yeah, really, really excited to see what happens on November 7th.
Thank you all. And
awesome.
And good luck with what all you're doing. And thank you for having me. It really is a blessing.
Absolutely.
We love you.
All right. So I do apologize. It's like almost 8:10. We have gone a little bit long because, we didn't really have a clock when we were interviewing her. We weren't really sure what we were doing in terms of timelines. But every moment with Colonel Pam Stevenson is a blessing. So I'm not going to cut it short. I do have to give a little bit of a backstory there because she referenced Duchess a couple of times, and we didn't really tell the story because she told us the story before we hit record. So you all need to know Representative Colonel Pam collects titles. I think she's Representative Colonel. And then now she is a Duchess, which, Doug, what is the story there?
The story there's in Hazard, there was a story. It wasn't really based in Hazard, Kentucky, but it was based in Hazard, Georgia, called the Dukes of Hazard. And apparently the mayor of Hazard, Kentucky, if he wants to honor a female, he names them a Duchess.
I've never heard that, Doug. I think that is all. What?
It's true. I'm not making this up.
I'm not disputing, but it just sounds a little odd.
It sounds a little wackadoodle. But you could be a Duchess of Hazard, Nema. Just get over there. Yeah. I'm sure they would appreciate you.
No, they don't like me in Hazard, Aaron. It's a long story.
All right. Well, that's got to be for another episode because we've gone too long. We need to wrap up. We got a final call to action, and then we'll close it up. Who wants to do the call to action? Who's ready to read that call to action?
Get it, Doug.
Okay. Sign up for Progress Kentucky's 4 more years of a Compassionate Commonwealth campaign. We're all in on re-electing Andy, putting Colonel Pam in the AG's office, Buddy Wheatley instead of Michael Side Hustle Adams, Kim Reeder for auditor, and we think Sierra Enlow is outstanding in her field and should be the next ag commissioner. We're supporting Michael Bowman for treasurer, and finally, in the 93rd district, we're backing Adrielle Camuel. We're doing calling and canvassing every week between now and November 7th. Sign up to help us out today. Do you want me to do the close also?
Keep it rolling, man.
All right. Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project, the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, referred to as CAVE. We're also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Make sure to join us next week when we'll be covering the breaking news out of the governor's race that is happening in about 19 days. Production of episode 135 was by the amazing Annabel Nagel. And thank you, Nate, for the new song and the theme songs. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. If you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, audio podcasts and our show notes are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you do listen to the pod, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you are listening right now. Logo and some graphic content provided by Couchfire Media. More information can be found at couchfiremedia.com. Join us next week. See ya.
Wait, did you guys see Nato's video has got more views on Facebook than Andy's vote margin or win margin last time? So he's over 5,400 views. I think he's at like 6,000 views right now. So if you've not watched It's Andy for Kentucky, you got to go check it out. I know we played it here on this show, but you should watch it whatever format you prefer, YouTube or Facebook or whatever. That is too much. Have you, Nema? Have you shared the video yet?
I have not. I will, but I want to say one thing really quickly. I know we've gone way over.
Way over.
American Federation of Teachers, Fayette, and Consolidated Baptist Church off Russell Cave Road. We are giving away 4,000 free and new books to kids on Saturday at 11 to 1 at the church, Consolidated Baptist. It's going to be a family resource fair. We're going to be offering free vaccinations, flu, COVID, anything that's not a live vaccine. And that will be 11 to 1 at Consolidated Baptist Church here off Russell Cave Road. We'd love to have anybody who needs to get books to kids or has any families that you might know. We would love to have you guys come. And there's going to be maybe a couple of special guests and some surprises too. But absolutely, we'd love to have you guys come out. This is one of our things that we try to do for the community, and we're really excited about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there like a Facebook event or some sort of event we can share the link to so people can?
Absolutely, yeah. If you all will share that link, that will be great. But we'd love to have anybody come out and check it out.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks for all the work you do, Nema, for sure. And then, folks, one more plug. Just go watch and listen to It's Andy for Kentucky. I promise you will not be disappointed. You'll be humming along. You'll be tapping your toe. You'll be informed about some of the things you'd forgotten that Andy Bashir has done through his, 3+ years of leadership for our Commonwealth. All right, we're going to stop talking because we actually did technically wrap up the show already. So, yeah, y'all just go home.
Annabelle's like, cutting.
Yeah, I was done 15 minutes ago, people. Thank you, Annabelle.
Thank you, Annabelle. Go ahead.